In this video, I'll be showing you 5 techniques that every beginner should know, plus some bonus points on what to try and avoid. I'll show you exactly how to use these to create your own paintings. Let's get into it. Hello, welcome to Dunnock Studio. I'm Jackie Smurden and I live in the heart of Norfolk, UK. My studio is all about art with a heart. I like to help all of you to improve your painting. No question is a silly question, and I'm here to help you. I've been painting for over 20 years and I have an adult education learning certificate, so I'm well placed to help you with your learning journey. Please do ask me any questions you may have, and welcome to my studio. Let's get started. Today I will be using some yellows, including lemon yellow, raw sienna, which is a warm yellow, possibly a little bit of burnt sienna or quinacridone gold, depending, and ultramarine blue and some sort of cool blue. I think I've got cerulean here, possibly a bit of darker indigo or something like that. So any of those will do. Please don't go and get special paints. I'm just using a simple round pointed brush there, which has got a nice belly to it, and that gives me opportunity to do point work, but also nice wide washes if I want to. And we'll be working on top of a spiral pad by Sea White, and just to show you, it's 300 GSM, which in old terms is £140. It's got 25% reclaimed cotton in it, and it's not finished. That just means it's not hot pressed, so it's got a bit of a rough texture to it. Wet on wet is where you have a background of either water or wet paint. I've just popped some water on here, which has actually got a little bit of pink in it, you can see from my brush. So, and I'm going to drop some paint into that randomly. This is alizarin crimson. Clean my brush. Pick up some ultramarine blue. The paper is still very wet, allowing the colours to blend together without leaving any harsh edges. This is perfect for backgrounds or skies, somewhere where you want soft effects. Wet on dry is where you have sharp, clean edges. Your paint is going onto dry paper and there is no blending at the edges. As soon as an edge dries, it becomes a hard edge. You can add another colour next to it, but unless you touch those edges immediately, they go on, they will have already dried and you get much harsher finishes. This is good for creating detail in your work, adding detail into your focal area on your painting, layering on top. A little bit damp there, that is now like the wet on wet, so it's still damp here, therefore it's blended away into the layer underneath. Where it's dry, it does not. Dry brush is where you take the pigment with as least amount of water as possible, drag your brush across the paper to create a nice skipping effect across the holes and the ridges in the paper. This really works on rough or cold press paper, not so well on hot press, because hot pressed is smooth and doesn't have the ridges to catch the paint. This is really interesting for texture, grass, water, fur, etc. Did you know that you can remove watercolour paint? If you've got some, it's too heavy, too strong, just in the wrong place, there are ways you can lift it out again. Whilst it's still damp, one of the good ways is to lift out with some tissue paper. Lift straight off and you're removing some of the pigment. Good for highlights on the side of objects or just to soften some edges. The other lift out technique you can also use when the paint is dry, some sort of stiff brush with a fairly sharp edge. Squeeze your brush in clean water, squeeze out the excess, and you can use it to lift out lines. Each time you do that, clean your brush, squeeze it out. These are great for sailboats, all sorts of things like that, branches on trees, etc. A gradient wash needs to have water, first of all, allowed just sinking to the paper, making it nice and damp, but not too wet. In order to see whether you've got enough, you have to sometimes angle yourself to see a sheen on the paper. You don't want your paper to be sopping wet, but you do want the sheen to be there to show that the paper is damp. Once you've got that effect, depending on your paper and the temperature, you may have to wait a minute or two. You pop on some strong colour that your brush is full of. Start at the top and you just keep working your way down. As you go, your brush will run out of pigment, pick up some of the water, become paler as it gets to the bottom. Gradient washes are good for backgrounds, giving a wonderful effect. Also good for skies. Backgrounds are where you have some paint already on your paper. You then add some more paint to hopefully get a wet in wet technique. Backgrounds can cause problems in that if you have allowed the paint underneath to dry, you will get this fuzzy edge where some of the water that is on the new wet part pushes into the drying wash on the side that you painted earlier. You can use this to your advantage. Where something has already dried, but not quite, you can add another layer, and if it starts to ooze back into the drying layer underneath, it can give you some nice textured effects. Equally, it can ruin a beautiful smooth wash because you went back into it. So this is a tip to avoid the mistake of letting your wash dry and going back in and trying to add to it, because where places are dry you could get marks and backruns that mean you do not get a smooth wash as you would do if you just touched it once and left it alone. Now I will use all 5 techniques to bring this scene together. Paint along with me if you like. Pick your own photo or view later on. The paper is damp, so I'm introducing wet into wet and also starting off with a graduated wash across the sky. Lots of techniques in watercolour overlap. So you will find as you paint that you'll learn things. Nothing stands in isolation on its own. It's very warm today, so I'm having to go back in, pick up some water to keep this wash running down. And because it's dried out so quick, you can see I have got some lines there. Not worried about that, but I've touched it, so I'll probably get a back run there later. We've just done a wet in, wet there. As it's drying so quick, I'm going to do my lift out. First of all, on here, some clouds, just simple clouds, rolling or pushing the paper down into the painting. Very effective for clouds. Then I'm going to quickly continue down the page because this is very dry. The paper is drying very quickly. I'm now drifting into a bit of dry brushing technique at the bottom. This is suggesting the stubble on this field. Still trying to keep this wet and wet, nice and loose. Just here I need to come back down into the blue because this is trees. Trying to keep, I've got a dry edge there because it's dried out. So that was wet on dry. You probably get the idea now. Watercolour is in charge, you are not. Don't worry about it, just go for it, see what happens. So this is my ultramarine blue coming behind the bales. There's lots of other techniques we're using here, but we're just going to try and mention the 5 that we've looked at today. As you can see, I've got hard edges here because it's dried so quickly. Got some nice dry brushing here. So let's have a little lift out. So lifting out some of the light on top of the bale there. That's come off nicely. Lift out again. I've just squeezed my brush out after putting it in clean water. Oops. Lift out just a tiny bit here and another bit there. Sometimes you need smaller tools. This is just a quick sketch. Lift out can also work if you want to highlight, say here we want a little bit of light, the sun perhaps hitting the field. So we've lifted out with clouds and tissue, we've lifted out with a brush. Here we've got a gradient wash coming down the sky. We've done wet in wet to start with, where we've got some soft edges, but also we ended up with wet on dry because the background dried so quickly. And we do need to put wet on dry again in our next layer. So this needs to just dry. We've already used the techniques, but I'm now going back in to get some more detail. So this is wet on dry. Using your brush, you can suggest shapes of trees, mixing your blues and your yellows to create all sorts of interesting shapes. Try and vary your greens as you go. I tend to make mine out of blues and yellows, but if you've got some green, please use it. You can dull green down if it's too bright and zingy by adding red. Red is opposite green on the colour wheel, makes some very nice muted greens. We use muted greens to give a nice soft background where you don't want too much attention. So for instance, the background here, I don't want it to be zingy green because it's a long way away from the foreground. Your bonus for today is negative painting. You can see I am painting around the forms which are suggesting straw bales here in Norfolk in the harvest. By painting a dark colour around a light highlight, which we lifted out earlier, you can suggest the form of the piece of equipment, whatever it is out there. You could do this with a building without actually painting very much detail on it at all. It's a nice technique. You can see I'm changing my blue, my green, my yellow as I go, so it's not all one boring flat green. Bonus number 2, you've done your negative painting. Try not to squeeze a tube of paint out, for instance green, and just paint that. Just try, even if you do want to use that green, to mix it as you go. Add more yellow in a part of it, add more blue. Try and get those greens to vary so they're not all the same. Make sure paintings come to life instead of being just a flat green background, which quite a lot of beginner painters make the mistake of just using the colour straight out of the tube. So be adventurous and try mix it up a little bit. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. So I'm just going to carry on with my negative painting here. We can do a little bit more lifting out. I've got an area there that's a bit heavy. So there's my lifting out again with a tissue. So immediately soften that back. I've used a bit of cadmium yellow in the green mix now, which has really warmed it up. Cadmium yellow, as opposed to lemon yellow, is really quite bright, warm yellow. Almost got orange in it. So cadmium can really lift an area of a painting into a brighter, warmer area. Lemon yellow added to blue can make really zingy greens. So it's just worth experimenting with your colours to see which ones you like, how you want your greens to look. Become a master of greenery instead of being afraid of it. Greens are not difficult as long as you just go with it. So there's my background done. Left a few gaps. It's always interesting to leave some spaces. The trees are not perfect by any means, but I'm happy with those. So for the first time, I'm going to pick up some of the burnt sienna colour we had earlier and mix it with a bit of that raw sienna that's already on here, and then try and just add a little bit more detail onto the bales. Now this is an interesting one because the bales have got circular lines, so you could try to dry brush around like we did earlier. That's quite a tricky one, isn't it, to do that on a shape like that. So I'm more using the point of the brush here just to suggest this is going around and around like that. Do another one here. It's a bit further back. Because it's further back, once it's on, I'll use the lift out again just to take some of it off. So it's a little bit more faded than that one. Let's do another one. But mostly this is raw sienna with a little bit of burnt sienna, which is that lovely rich golden colour. Like so. Again, we're going back into the distance, so I don't want as much detail here. That's still damp, so I don't want to go and touch it because I will get a back run there. The last one is here. So again, I don't touch the greenery in the background. The best way to do that would be, of course, to let it dry. Lift that one out a little bit to make it paler. So that's looking nice. Go back to my lift out technique, this time using the brush. Just show you could potentially lift out some lines using that technique. Damp brush squeezed out with your fingers, pull it through the paint, immediately clean your brush off, squeeze it, lift out. There you go. It's just softening some of those lines in there. These are quite harsh as well. So lifting out, but also you're softening, taking away some of the hard edges, like so. Going back to my raw sienna, this time without the burnt sienna in it, so it's not quite as warm. I'm going to suggest the lower parts of these bales, which I need to be a little bit stronger. Yes, again here because they're coming round, but don't go up into that highlight that we lifted out earlier. We're just trying to make them look like they're sitting down in the landscape. And also you would have some sort of depth around them, so you can take that out a little bit onto the field, as it were, just to suggest just softening the edge there. Now that's a different technique. Bonus number 3, you're doing wet on dry, but you can then go back in with a damp brush, not a wet brush. Just soften that edge a little bit. Let that settle in. We're nearly there now, but we need to let all of that dry on this simple study and then add some detail to suggest they're sitting in some light. Adding some dry brush again with some slightly stronger colour. Not particularly dry there, is it? There we go, that's better. Remember, doesn't work. You can lift it off with a towel, or you can go in with your brush. Just go through some of those areas. No such thing as a mistake. Just play with your paints. Treat every painting that you do as a sketch, not as a finished painting. Just learn from each one. Okay. Giving the field a bit of texture, but also made this area warmer by adding that warm colour than the back area, so it pushes the back area away. So for the final touches, we're going to add some shadows to the underneath of these bales, and I'm going to keep this very simple. I'm going to use the burnt sienna that we used earlier, plus the ultramarine blue that we used in the beginning. You'll get a lovely grey, and a grey is a nice way to use the colours because you've mixed it yourself. This is wet on dry because we've dried it. Just into a point there with the point of my brush. So I'm adding the shadow underneath the veil, just where it's sitting, just here, suggesting it's sitting on that stubble by dragging my brush down. Back here it won't be as obvious because it's a bit further away. There is still a slight shadow, so you can just pop a little bit in. Can't really see that one. And then to make it look right, because it's not quite right just to the eye, just drag them slightly out like that. Doesn't work because you slightly overdid one. Lift it off. Lift it off. This one as well. Lift it off. We've got some nice soft shadows, and very, very last thing I'm going to add on, wet on dry. You should be keeping up with me now. Should be thinking what exactly that means. Got a dry sky, pointed brush with the same mix I just picked up. And this is the area the eye leads to. So in the lightest part of it, a couple of little birds. There we go. Simple 5 techniques, some bonuses to help you along get painting. So this is the finished painting, and these were some of the techniques we used, and including some of the mistakes you might find happen, but they're happy accidents. Learn from them and enjoy painting. Which was your favourite technique? Let me know in the comments, and don't feel you have to use all of them because you can be a bit overwhelming, so just maybe try 1 or 2 in a very small painting. Like and subscribe if you found this helpful, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Please do like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I really appreciate any comments, any questions, and maybe look out for my next video here, or is it here? That might help you in your watercolour journey. Happy painting. Bye for now. See you soon on the next video. Bye.